The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher. Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. I've got a great friend, an innovator at the PE level of primary schools, Brad Clark. Brad, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Awesome. So if you don't mind, just give an introduction of who you are.
Elementary PE teacher here locally, Forest Road Elementary School in LaGrange Park. I've been teaching there about 17 years, total teaching for about 18. Prior to that, spent about 4 or 5 years working for the YMCA, doing a lot of more outdoor learning center kind of stuff, adventure learning stuff, service learning with kids, and adventure trips, service learning trips, things like that. And then kind of took the path back into education again about 18 years ago.
So that path, you didn't go right into education, which a lot of people who have a little different ideas in education usually don't. Out of my, I don't want to stereotype everybody, but tell us a little bit about that path. So out of college and then going into some outdoor learning and those types of things, what brought you back into education through all of that?
Yeah, so I did get my education degree. I did get a physical education degree, University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, but my summers were always spent working at summer camp. I was a big member of the Boy Scouts of America and spent 8 summers, high school and college, working at summer camp. And I just really loved that setting for teaching, being in the outdoors. And I'm a nature guy. I love camping and hiking and biking and those kind of things. And so it just felt like a real good sit for me, like when I was on nature teaching kids. And so being a PE major, I started to wonder, is there a way that I can kind of combine these two things? And so I thought about paths of could I be a camp director? Could I do some sort of parks and rec sort of job? And eventually what I came across was the outdoor leadership stuff at the time was really big. So I ended up working at Camp St. Croix, which is in Hudson, Wisconsin, doing tons of team leading, everything from elementary school kids all the way through corporate stuff. We would take people out on rock climbing trips and high ropes coursework and stuff like that. And I loved the work, but it was never consistent or full time. So I kind of had to hustle side jobs with working at after school centers and a skateboard park and things like that. So all those experiences kind of combined brought me to a full-time job in Evanston, just north of Chicago, where I was getting to do all those kind of things combined. I was running an after-school center. I was doing service learning stuff with students and taking them on adventure trips. And I did that for about 4 years. But, the YMCA does not make its money on youth programming, so it's not necessarily stable. So rug kind of got pulled out from under me on that position. And at the time, I just needed something stable. So I thought, well, let's just give the degree a try. Mm-hmm. And so 18 years later, here I am, still at it.
What are some of the things that you've brought in we're going to talk about COVID and the social distancing and how we had gone to e-learning. But pre that, what are some of the cool things that you've brought into the classroom as a physical education teacher that you brought in from your experiences in leadership learning and outdoor activities and those types of things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I never really got into PE because of the sports side of it. I certainly love playing sports, and I think a lot of people who get into PE are just naturally good at sports. It's just something they're drawn to, but that was never really my draw to it. My draw, the thing that I think a lot of people love about sports, is the camaraderie and the teamwork and the spirit of being a part of something that's a little bit bigger than yourself. And I think some of those team building experiences and those the outdoor adventure learning stuff that I did, I think that was what I was trying to bring into my classroom. Not so much teaching you how to be good at a sport, mm-hmm. but how to be good while you're being a part of a sport. So I really do push a lot in my classes about the character building stuff, the SEL stuff, the social emotional learning, talking about what does it mean to be a good teammate? What does it look like when you're pushing yourself hard to try something maybe you haven't done before? How do you support somebody? How do you accept defeat and loss?
That's a big one.
Do you play fair? Do you follow rules? Do you share? Do you take turns? These are all great lessons for kids and adults. And so, that's really kind of I use sport as a way of teaching life skills, the way I like to think of how I run my classrooms.
I love that. I love that aspect of it because as an entrepreneur in business at the secondary level, those are so key skills. And to have, I don't think a lot of people understand the importance of that, especially in a physical education realm of doing those things. So now we are in a social distancing era where we have to do some e-learning and different things like that. And I know there's a lot of listeners out there where you start thinking, okay, what do you do for physical education? What are the things that, for a subject, it's a little bit different. I mean, but you've caught on to something here, and I just wanted to kind of like pick your brain and like have you share out some things that you've done because you're getting really good kids are involved. You're getting good, about 85, 90% of your kids are jumping onto this and interacting with you, which is a very high level in the e-learning realm where we are right now. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on when this thing first hit, the COVID hit right between, it started right before spring break. So we had like a 3-week window where we're off. 2 of those weeks were supposed to be early, and at the start of this, it was like, oh, this will just be a 2-week thing. We'll be back. So, everybody just kind of do your best. I think a lot of classroom teachers were sending out packets and things like that. And what I decided to do was I just kind of put together a choice board that had a bunch of like links to online stuff, and then said, hey, fill out this activity log and, turn it in at the end of this all. And I did not get very good response. I mean, I probably had 25% of the kids do it. I wasn't too shocked by it. It was last minute we threw it together, but we were going to be back together in 2 weeks. Well,
Right.
then, the whole thing kind of fell apart. And I just sat there. I said, I can't do this for another 7-8 weeks where I'm only getting 20% of my students responding back. So, I had to figure out a new way of doing PE. And for me, that was learning to embrace some technology, first of all, that maybe I hadn't had to really interact with before. So, I've had to learn how to use Google Classroom and how to run a Zoom meeting and how to make an iMovie. Like I've dabbled with it, but I've never really, done a lot with producing my own stuff. And so that was number one, is embracing the own challenge of myself. Like I can't teach the same way I did before. So, so I had to change some of the ways that I was presenting it. So that's one. 2 was I think it was important for me to make it personal and relational, because I realized that first 2 weeks, all I did was I sent them somebody else's work. Here's a video of some other guy doing a workout. Here's a video of some girl leading a yoga thing. Here's a worksheet, it means nothing to you. It doesn't have any personality. So I started making my own videos. So I make about 2 or 3 videos a week that show me either teaching a new game that they can use using just simple stuff at home. Right away I involved my own kids. So I showed my family in the videos and showed, hey, I'm right here at home with my kids too, doing this stuff. So I think parents saw that and were like, hey, that's a way that, we can engage our kids. And I got a lot of good feedback from it. And then I was getting much better results with kids turning in activity logs. It's very choice-based, which I think is important. I was not saying, do this assignment on Monday and turn in your activity log. I'm setting up to let them explore it how they want. Nothing is mandatory.
Yeah.
And what I've started to do now is I'm theming the weeks. So like last week, the theme was new. Try something new. And I encourage them to send me photos, show me a video, send me an email. And, last week I had like 8 first graders who learned how to ride a bike without their training wheels.
Oh, wow.
Great. Kids picking up a skateboard. I had a girl send me a fitness video that she made of herself. Like, I made a fitness video for my 4th grade class. Like, oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So they embraced it. And then this week, the theme is challenge. Do something that's challenging. Think of an endurance challenge or minute to win it activities or things like that. So I'm seeing lots of fun stuff this week. Kid learned how to juggle. He just sent me a video of him learning how to juggle.
Wow.
He'd never juggled 3 before. So, it's fun stuff like that. So it's choice. And they're excited to show me their stuff, and I'm excited to show my stuff. And I'm really happy. I'm getting, like you said, I'm getting about 85, 90% turn-in rate with kids. So it feels useful. It feels like what I'm doing is working.
It was interesting, this whole conversation of, hey, wait, let's celebrate this. Let's talk about this on the podcast. Came from a video that you sent me of your son doing kind of flip challenge. And it was even for me, I'm just like a dad, and I'm watching this thing, and I can't. I'm like, wait, what? How else is he gonna flip this thing?
Yeah.
And it was so fun and engaging. It didn't even feel like PE, right? Like, but there's physical activity, there's thought, there's how can I challenge myself and going
That
through this.
coordination. Yeah, there's like,
And
yeah, he did that all on his own. He had helped me with a video, I think 2 or 3 days before that one, and then he'd been doing a little bit of the bottle flipping just on his own.
mm-hmm,
And then he just asked, "Hey, Dad, can I make a video?" Because I told him that the challenge for this week, the theme for this week was going to be challenge.
mm-hmm.
And he said, "I'll make them a challenge video on bottle flipping." I was like, "Hey, man, you run with that. You go." And he did a great job. I was pretty impressed. That's his first time. He made that whole movie. The only thing I
wow.
was adding the music in. So, I mean, he did really good.
I really like the way that it's there's choice. I mean, you're coming backdoor into this, right? With you, you're teaching all those skills, eye-hand coordination. See, these are the terms like for just me, even as a secondary educator, I'm like, I don't even realize, how deep this goes, and you're pulling out those things as a PE teacher. I'm the guy who's like, this seems like herding cats for me, so it'd be hard. So that's awesome. So my next question then is beyond this, right? So whenever this thing is done, what are you going to take from this? What are kind of the things that you can take and go forward? Either where we're in a social distancing, modified classroom, or even full on out back into the classroom.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing goes back to that technology piece. I mean, having learned how some of these tools work now, I mean, some of the stuff is pretty incredible. Like the Google Classrooms, that's definitely staying. I mean, there's times where I need to get information to my students because we do written tests, we do, work and, studying muscle groups or bones and stuff. And I haven't had a good, avenue to send that stuff to them. Like, oh my gosh, look at this Google Classroom. They're all right there. I can send them all this stuff. So that will definitely stick. A lot more communication with parents has been happening. And I've been getting really good feedback from parents about just, hey, this is great stuff that you're doing. So I think when this is all settled, I think I'd like to sort of set up some sort of maybe bi-weekly communication that goes home to parents saying, hey, these are the things we've been doing in PE class. Here's some ways you can supplement it at home. Just to highlight, you got to sell yourself a little bit. I think sometimes as specialists, maybe even you get this sometimes because your classes are kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not mandatory. They're
right. Yeah, they're electives.
They're electives. You're not highlighted necessarily all the time, so you got to sell yourself a little bit. So, I think if anything's been helpful in this, is that the parents are seeing their kid's PE teacher for who he really is. I think a lot of times you might just not really know who your kid's extras are, who's their music teacher, who's their art teacher, what are they really about. I think the parents are really seeing who I am. My personality comes out in my videos. Obvious that I care about their kids. I'm sending 2 or 3 emails a week, and I try to always send feedback. On every log I get, I always send a little feedback, congratulating the kids on their good work or highlighting something I saw on there. So, I think they see that I care. So I think communicating with parents is a big thing that I'm taking away from this. But then also thinking ahead of that, like it is time to start thinking about what will PE look like post-COVID. Like I worry a little bit, like, am I going to be able to like have kids hanging out in groups? Am I going to be able to, we're going to be able to give high fives? Are we gonna,
right.
Am I going to have the gym sectioned off? I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of those things do worry me moving down the road, but there are some good things coming out of it in terms of, selling myself and like communicating home with parents, making connections. It's been good.
What word of advice would you give for, and I'll just be specific, for PE teachers at the primary level coming out of this that may be struggling with this?
I think the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to take a chance on trying to do something new because, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
They don't do it or it doesn't work. I've always felt like PE is one of those things where, nobody's really paying attention to you. It's a good and a bad thing. Like, the principal's not really checking in on me. The superintendent's not asking what the elementary PE teacher's doing. So in a lot of ways, that gives you a ton of freedom. Try something. And in other ways, it's bad because nobody's paying attention. But so try something different. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I wasn't willing to just be stuck with 20%. Like this wasn't, I was going to be miserable for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Just sending out somebody else's work and, not get anything back. And, it'd be really easy to sit back with 20% and just say, well, I guess they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing my work. And so, I'm proud of myself. I think,
It's really cool how you've adapted and you've changed so quickly. It's a struggle for teachers. You have 3 kids.
Yeah.
We're all going through this. Man, I appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you so much, Brad, and keep doing what you're doing. I think these kids are lucky to have you as a PE teacher.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time on Disrupt Education.